It started like any other day behind palace walls. Quiet, elegant, controlled. But that calm was shattered by a decision that has sent shockwaves through the royal family. In an unexpected and emotionally charged turn of events, Queen Camilla has been blindsided. The very titles and roles she fought so carefully to secure for her family have now been stripped away. But this time, the order didn't come from Prince William. It came from Princess Anne. Known for her no-nonsense approach and lifelong loyalty to royal tradition, Princess Anne has taken a stand, one that some insiders say was long overdue. In what palace sources are calling a decisive royal correction, Anne has led the charge in removing ceremonial titles, privileges, and access once quietly granted to Camilla's children and grandchildren. The move was quiet. No press release, no grand announcement. But the message couldn't be louder. Those not born royal no longer have a seat at the royal table. And for Camilla, this wasn't just a blow. It was personal. This was more than roles and titles. This was about everything she had built since marrying King Charles. A place not just for herself, but for her family. Now, all of it, gone. In whispers behind palace doors and icy glances at royal events, the new reality is setting in. The age of soft lines and silent inclusion may be over. And Camilla? Sources say she's furious, betrayed, blindsided, and quietly unraveling. So what pushed Princess Anne to make such a bold move? Why now? And what does this mean for the monarchy's future? Let's step inside the royal halls and uncover the beginning of this quiet but seismic shift. The news didn't come through a formal letter or a public statement. It arrived quietly, a removed name from a ceremonial list, a missing seat at an event, an invitation that never came. But for those who know how the royal machine works, the signs were unmistakable. The Parker Bowles family was being erased. At the heart of this quiet upheaval is Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, the monarchy's iron backbone. With her decades of unwavering service, she's long been the guardian of tradition. A woman who never sought headlines but always commanded respect behind closed doors. This wasn't a move made in haste. According to insiders, Anne had grown increasingly uneasy with the presence of Camilla's children and grandchildren in official royal spaces. Though they were never granted titles by blood, their slow integration into the royal world, through ceremony, symbolism, and soft access, was, to Anne, a dangerous blurring of lines. She saw it not as kindness, but as a compromise of legacy. So she acted. Alongside a few trusted aides, and with quiet nods from senior palace figures, Anne orchestrated what many are now calling the beginning of a royal reset. No more honorary mentions. No more ceremonial roles for children without royal blood. No more blurred lines. And yet, the method was pure Anne. Not cruel, just clear. Not loud, but absolute. For years, Queen Camilla had worked carefully to position her family within the royal frame. Never too boldly, never demanding titles, but inching them closer with every event, every photograph, every favor. It worked, until now. In a single, silent sweep, that work has been undone. The monarchy, Anne believes, must return to its foundation: bloodline, duty, tradition. And with King Charles stepping back from public duties due to health concerns, Anne saw the moment, a gap in leadership, a window to act. She took it, and the monarchy may never look the same again. Long before she became queen consort, Camilla was the outsider, the woman the public whispered about, the name many refused to say with warmth. Her path to the crown wasn't paved with fairy tale moments. It was carved out quietly, step by careful step, through decades of scandal, shame, and subtle perseverance. When she married Prince Charles in 2005, few believed Camilla would ever be truly accepted. The memory of Princess Diana loomed large, and the public's affection was firmly with the late princess. Even within the palace, Camilla's presence was met with polite distance. Her children, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, were virtually invisible, their existence barely acknowledged in official circles. But Camilla was not naive. She knew she wasn't just marrying a man, she was entering an institution. And she also knew that institutions don't change overnight. So she waited. She watched. She moved with caution and grace. Over the years, Camilla cultivated a presence. She didn't demand attention, she earned it. She championed charities, supported causes close to her heart, and kept a low profile. And slowly, very slowly, the public began to soften. The press coverage became less cruel. The royal family began to warm. And behind the scenes, Camilla began building something of her own. Her children started appearing in the periphery of royal events. They weren't front and center, but they were visible, seated near the family during ceremonies, listed quietly in programs, occasionally photographed walking behind senior royals. These weren't grand gestures, but they were intentional, strategic, telling. By the time Charles became king, Camilla had done what once seemed impossible. She had not only secured her own place in the royal family, but she had carved out space for her family too. Her grandchildren even took part in the king's coronation, an honor typically reserved for royal bloodlines. For Camilla, it wasn't about titles or power, it was about acceptance, about giving her family the respect she had worked so hard to earn for herself. She believed she had succeeded, but what took nearly 2 decades to build was dismantled in a matter of weeks. And the person leading that undoing wasn't just her stepson, it was Princess Anne. To understand why this quiet royal coup unfolded the way it did, you have to understand the woman at the center of it. Not Camilla, but Princess Anne. Anne has always been the monarchy's unshakable pillar, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't flatter, and never folds. While others in the royal family chased headlines or retreated from public life, Anne did the work, tirelessly, privately, without complaint. She never needed to be liked, she needed to be respected. And she is. In many ways, Princess Anne is more royal than anyone else alive today. Born into the heart of tradition, raised under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, and fiercely protective of the monarchy's shape and symbolism, she has long served as its quiet defender. Which is why, when she saw Camilla's family creeping ever closer to the royal circle, not by blood, but by marriage and appearance, she drew a line. Anne had watched it happen in silence. She noted the subtle shifts, the public mentions, the increasing access, the ceremonial inclusion. She saw the photos of Camilla's grandchildren in coronation robes, walking the same paths once reserved for princes. And to her, it wasn't progress, it was erosion. In Anne's mind, the monarchy is not a dinner party where anyone with a personal connection gets a seat at the table. It's a sacred institution with centuries of rules, structure, and symbolism. To dilute that, even slightly, is to weaken the entire foundation. So, while others stayed silent, perhaps out of politeness or fear of conflict, Anne acted. But she didn't storm in. That's not her way. Instead, she did what she's always done: the job, methodically, quietly, properly. She consulted senior aides. She reviewed roles, titles, and the history behind each honorary position. She made recommendations, presented rationale, and reminded others of the monarchy's core principle. Royalty is by blood, not association. And this time, people listened. With King Charles preoccupied with his health and Prince William taking on more duties, Anne found herself in a position of unexpected influence. She didn't abuse it, she used it. Some say William agreed with her. Others say he simply didn't stop her. Either way, the outcome was the same. Camilla's family was cut out. To outsiders, It may seem harsh, even cruel, but to Anne, it was simply what had to be done. A course correction, a defense of legacy. She isn't the villain in this story. She's the guardian. And she's made it clear. The royal bloodline is not a ladder for others to climb. Not now. Not ever. At Clarence House, the air was unusually still. It was a quiet morning when Queen Camilla learned the truth. Not from her husband, not from a senior aide, but from a whisper passed along by a stunned member of staff. Her family, it seemed, had been silently removed from royal ceremony guest lists, their honorary roles rescinded without fanfare, without warning. Camilla froze. At first, she didn't believe it. This had to be a misunderstanding, a scheduling error, perhaps. But when the confirmations came, one after the other, her grandchildren excluded from state plans, her children's names quietly dropped from upcoming royal appearances, the reality set in. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message, and it cut deep. Those closest to Camilla say she was shaken, more than anyone had ever seen her. For a woman known for her poise and practiced calm, this was different. She didn't lash out, she didn't scream, but her silence spoke volumes. She looked like she had been betrayed, one aide confided. The tears came later, not in front of the staff, but behind her bedroom doors, alone. For Camilla, this wasn't just about royal logistics. This was personal. She had spent nearly 2 decades building a quiet space for her family in a world that never wanted them. She never asked for power. She never demanded titles. She simply hoped her children and grandchildren could stand near the crown. Not wear it, but be seen. Now that small dream had been torn apart, and by the very institution she had dedicated her life to supporting. But what hurt her most wasn't just what happened. It was who did it. Camilla had always known Princess Anne to be traditional, perhaps cold, but she respected her. She believed there was mutual civility, even a quiet understanding. For Anne to be the hand behind this quiet purge, without a single word to Camilla, felt like betrayal. And then came the silence from King Charles. He said nothing, no comfort, no explanation, no defense. Camilla expected him to step in, to at least ask questions, but instead, she was met with polite evasions and empty reassurances. It was as if the decision had been made without him, or worse, with his approval. In those first few days, Camilla withdrew. Meetings were missed. Dinners went untouched. Friends received curt replies, if any at all. She wasn't angry in the way tabloids love to describe. She was crushed. "I thought I had earned my place," she whispered to a confidant. "I thought we were past this." Behind palace walls, Camilla's world had grown quiet again. But this time, it wasn't by choice. It was a silence shaped like exile. While Camilla was reeling and the palace halls echoed with whispers, one figure remained calm: Prince William. He didn't issue a statement. He didn't appear rattled in public. But make no mistake, those close to the inner circle say he knew. And more than that, he agreed. For years, William has walked the delicate line between modernity and tradition. Outwardly warm, inwardly calculated, he has watched his father's reign unfold with measured patience. But with King Charles gradually stepping back from duties due to health concerns, the space for real leadership began to open. And William quietly stepped in. According to insiders, William wasn't the mastermind behind the move to remove Camilla's family from royal life, but he also didn't stop it. In fact, some say his silence was a form of consent, a quiet endorsement of Princess Anne's decision. William's vision for the monarchy has always been about streamlining. He doesn't want a royal family bloated with extended members and half-in, half-out roles. To him, blurred lines create confusion, and confusion weakens the crown. He believes the public deserves clarity. Who is royal? Who represents the throne? Who doesn't? Camilla's family, while loved, never fit that mold. And to William, affection cannot override structure. Even Princess Catherine, always graceful, always careful, is said to share this view. Together, William and Kate believe in a smaller, stronger monarchy, one that doesn't rely on inclusion by marriage or sentiment. So when Princess Anne took action, William didn't interfere. In fact, sources say he was briefed beforehand and chose not to object. It was the kind of decision that aligns perfectly with the monarchy he is quietly shaping behind the scenes. And that's the thing about William. He doesn't need to raise his voice to lead. He leads by stepping back just far enough for the change to happen, then stepping forward to carry its legacy. To the public, he remains the steady heir. But behind palace walls, he's already redrawing the map of the royal future. And Camilla, once a queen rising, has just discovered that her family is no longer on it. In the days following the quiet removal of Camilla's family, the tone inside the palace began to shift. Not with shouts or confrontation, but in subtler ways. The kind only royals can deliver. A missed glance, a delayed invitation, a door left politely ajar but never opened. There was no official fallout, no public outburst, but the temperature behind those gilded walls dropped. Sources say that Queen Camilla's demeanor changed almost overnight. Once a warm and balancing presence, she became reserved, brittle. At royal engagements, she avoided lingering near Princess Anne. Their body language stark, the space between them more telling than words. Observers noticed it at a recent charity event. Anne and Camilla stood just feet apart, but never acknowledged one another. No smiles, no eye contact, only the icy civility of two women who once cooperated, now standing on opposite sides of a very private war. And then there was Kate. To the public, the Princess of Wales was her usual composed self, smiling gracefully, saying all the right things. But Camilla saw something else. Behind the smiles, she sensed alignment. Kate and Anne on the same side, protectors of a pure monarchy. Camilla's long-held suspicions now felt like truth, that the future of the crown was being shaped without her, and possibly against her. Even King Charles, caught in the middle, seemed adrift. When he spoke to Camilla, it was gently, evasively. He avoided the subject, perhaps hoping it would fade, but it didn't. The house grew quieter, the staff more careful, the air heavier. The divide had formed, not with declarations, but in every small moment that followed. The smiles were thinner, the silence louder. Inside those palace walls, the damage wasn't loud or fast. It was slow and cold, and it was spreading. For years, they stood quietly on the edges. Camilla's children and grandchildren, never truly royal, but never fully outsiders either. They didn't wear crowns, they didn't hold titles, but their presence spoke volumes. Now, they've vanished from the frame. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, and Laura Lopes, her daughter, had once become familiar if understated faces at royal events. They attended weddings, appeared at state ceremonies, and were invited to exclusive gatherings. They were seated respectfully, not among the senior royals, but never far behind. Their children, Gus and Louis Lopes and Freddie Parker Bowles, even played ceremonial roles at King Charles's coronation. It was a milestone moment, signaling a quiet but powerful message. Camilla's family had a place in royal history, or so it seemed. The truth is, their involvement was always precarious, built on presence, not pedigree. They had no claim to titles, no constitutional role, no official standing in the line of succession. What they had was access, Camilla's quiet advocacy, her delicate influence behind palace doors, her gentle insistence that her loved ones be seen. But access, it turns out, can be taken away. And it has been. In recent weeks, every sign of inclusion has been slowly, carefully removed. Their names no longer appear on ceremonial rosters. They've been left off guest lists for upcoming royal functions. Their invitations, once routine, have simply stopped arriving. It's not a scandal. It's not a disgrace. It's something more chilling, a formal forgetting. One insider described it as a silent unspooling of everything Camilla built. There were no accusations, no errors, just a quiet door closing and a family once brushed with royal light, now fading back into private life. For the Parker Bowles family, this shift isn't just about appearances, it's about identity. For years, they were more than Camilla's relatives. They were symbols of the modern blended monarchy, of inclusion beyond bloodlines. Now they're simply gone. No titles, no roles, no royal nods. And for Camilla, the message couldn't be clearer. They were never truly part of it. The palace has returned to its roots. And her family, once invited to the edge, has been gently but firmly pushed back into the shadows. On the surface, Princess Kate seemed untouched by the royal shift. She smiled as always, walked with elegance, and never uttered a single word about the changes. But behind the palace walls, many began to wonder, was this silence just courtesy, or was it strategy? Unlike Camilla, Kate was born outside the aristocracy, yet she understood the royal code with almost unnatural precision. She never overstepped, never pushed too far, and never sought roles for her own family. The Middletons stayed grounded, humble, close to Kate, but far from the crown. And that made her the perfect royal. Those close to the situation say Kate had long shared Prince William's vision. A focused, slimmed-down monarchy, one free of blurred lines, favoritism, or personal accommodations. A monarchy rooted in clarity and legacy, not emotion. Camilla's quiet push to bring her grandchildren into the royal fold never sat well with traditionalists, and Kate, though never openly critical, may have seen it as a soft breach of protocol. When Princess Anne stepped in, some say she did so not only with William's quiet approval, but with Kate's tacit support. There were no sharp words exchanged. That's not Kate's style. But Camilla reportedly felt it. The coldness behind the kindness, the withdrawal of warmth in their already distant relationship. At recent events, the space between the two women was more than physical. It was ideological. Camilla saw a power shift, and she wasn't wrong. Kate, without saying a word, stood firmly in a circle Camilla would never fully enter. She represented the future, mother to a future king, wife to the next monarch, and a picture-perfect royal with flawless instincts for public perception. She didn't need to fight Camilla. She just had to wait. Because in the palace, power doesn't always come from titles or speeches. Sometimes it comes from knowing exactly when to smile and when not to. He has spent his life caught between public expectation and private emotion. And now, as king, Charles finds himself once again at the center of a storm. Only this time, the fracture runs through his own home. On one side stands Queen Camilla, his loyal partner through decades of personal and public upheaval. The woman who stood by him when the world turned its back. The woman who endured whispers, judgment, and exile just to be with him. On the other side is his heir, Prince William, calm, resolute, and quietly reshaping the monarchy with every passing day. And between them, a silence that speaks louder than any royal proclamation. When Camilla first learned that her family had been removed from ceremonial roles, she expected Charles to speak up, to question, to protest, to defend her family's small but symbolic place within the royal circle. But he didn't. Those close to him say he was torn. He saw Camilla's pain, but he also understood the logic behind the move. He knew that William, supported by Anne and perhaps even Kate, was acting on principle, not malice. The monarchy needed structure. The public needed clarity. And his son was delivering both. So Charles chose silence, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know what to say. Insiders describe him as withdrawn in recent weeks, less animated, more reflective. He's attending fewer public events due to his health, but those around him say the emotional toll is just as real. Camilla feels abandoned, William feels justified, and Charles feels trapped. He tried briefly to mediate, to ease the tension. But when William politely refused to reverse course, and when Camilla's disappointment hardened into quiet distance, Charles stepped back. He didn't choose sides, but by doing nothing, he may have chosen both, or neither. He now walks a narrowing path, one that leads deeper into kingship, but further from personal peace. And as the monarchy moves forward, more tightly defined, more rigid in its form, Charles must carry the weight of a decision he didn't make, but one that may cost him everything he thought he had finally secured. Outside the palace gates, the royal drama hasn't gone unnoticed. In fact, it's divided the public, perhaps more deeply than anyone inside Buckingham Palace anticipated. Some see Princess Anne and Prince William's move as a bold return to tradition. They applaud the clarity, the boundaries, the refusal to turn the monarchy into what one commentator called a family reunion in crowns. For these traditionalists, the monarchy should remain sacred, its roles held only by those born into the bloodline. To them, Camilla's family never truly belonged, but others see it differently. To a growing number of royal watchers and everyday citizens, the quiet removal of Camilla's grandchildren, especially after they were so visibly included during the coronation, feels cruel, dismissive, even humiliating. These voices argue that the monarchy is meant to evolve, and that Camilla, after years of loyalty and grace, had earned a place not just for herself, but for her family too. Social media has become a battleground. On one side, loyalty to duty. On the other, loyalty to heart. And while most still hold deep respect for William and Anne, some are beginning to question if this new, streamlined monarchy comes at the cost of something vital: humanity. Can a royal family survive without warmth? Or is this cold precision exactly what's needed to keep the crown from crumbling? Either way, the public is watching, and the monarchy's next move will speak volumes. Within the stone walls of Buckingham Palace, an invisible shift is underway. Not loud, not chaotic, but deep. The royal family is no longer just a symbol of continuity. It's becoming a symbol of refinement, of separation, of structure. Prince William's vision is taking shape. Gone are the soft exceptions, the emotional accommodations, the quiet integrations. In their place, a cleaner image, one that looks back to the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Tight, dignified, and focused on duty above all else. But make no mistake, this isn't simply a return to the past. It's a strategic future. William knows the monarchy must be more than tradition. It must be functional, understandable, defensible. In an era of social media scrutiny, financial transparency, and rising Republican sentiments, every royal face must serve a purpose. There's no more room for blurred lines, not even for the Queen's own family. And that clarity, while effective, comes with a cost. Inside the palace, the divide is now permanent. Some members, like Anne and Kate, seem more aligned than ever. Others, like Camilla, now live in a quiet corner of royal life, still present but distanced. Her influence has been reduced, her legacy redrawn. And King Charles? He watches it unfold, the monarchy he long dreamed of leading, now being reshaped by the very son he once raised to carry it. The crown is moving forward, But not everyone is moving with it. For days after the news broke, Camilla disappeared from view. No speeches, no social appearances, no commentary. But now, her silence is beginning to crack. Those close to her say she's planning, not in anger, but in defiance. Not to start a war, but to write her own ending. She's been queen consort for barely a year, but the message from the firm has been unmistakable. Her place is accepted, but her influence is limited. The family she tried to lift into the light has been cast back into shadow. Still, Camilla is no stranger to adversity. She's weathered scandal, survived vilification, and outlasted public scorn. If anyone knows how to endure quiet rejection, it's her. And this time, she's not interested in pity. Sources say she's exploring ways to reshape her public image, doubling down on charitable work, expanding her patronage, and quietly building alliances with those sympathetic to her story. A few trusted reporters have already received background briefings. The message? Camilla is still standing, but something has changed. She no longer walks with the relaxed confidence of a queen climbing. She walks with the measured resolve of a queen holding her ground. The fairy tale is over. What remains is survival, and a subtle but unmistakable vow. If her family has been erased from royal records, they will not be erased from memory. The crown is heavy, not just in gold and jewels, but in the weight of history, expectation, and consequence. Every choice made within the royal family echoes far beyond palace gates. Princess Anne drew a line. Prince William held it. Princess Kate quietly supported it. And King Charles, trapped between love and legacy, let it stand. In the process, Queen Camilla lost something she had fought decades to build. Not her title, but her family's place beside her. A dream delicately assembled, dismantled in silence. The monarchy is changing. Whether it is evolving or reverting depends on where you stand. To some, this is a triumph of clarity over confusion. To others, it's a cold reminder that the firm never forgets its rules and rarely forgives those who challenge them. But what cannot be denied is this: Prince William has spoken, not with statements, but with action. His monarchy will be lean, focused, and unshakably defined. No soft edges, no exceptions. Camilla may have thought she could rewrite the royal story to include her own lineage, but William has chosen a different story, one that looks backward to protect what's ahead. And now, as this new chapter begins, the royal family stands more structured than ever, but perhaps also more divided. Only time will tell if this bold reset will strengthen the crown, or if the human cost will cast a shadow it cannot shake.